The morning sun rose over Taeyang's farm like it did every other day. He walked through his grain fields with a cup of coffee in his hand, checking the crops the way his father taught him. The wheat was growing well this season. Everything looked normal and peaceful. Then he saw the smoke. A thick black column rose from the forest at the edge of his property. Taeyang put down his coffee and grabbed his tools. Maybe it was a fire. Maybe someone crashed a vehicle. He needed to check. The walk to the forest took 20 minutes. As he got closer, he saw something strange. The trees were not just burned, they were melted. The ground had turned to glass in some places. Whatever made this heat was not normal. Taeyang followed the trail of destruction deeper into the woods. His heart beat faster. This was not a forest fire. This was something else. Then he saw it. A massive ship lay half buried in the ground. It was bigger than his entire house. The metal was red and gold, and it glowed softly even in the daylight. Strange symbols covered the hull. Taeyang had never seen anything like it in his life. He stood there for a long moment, just staring. Ships like this did not exist. Human technology could not build something so beautiful and so alien. This was a ship from another world. Another species. Taeyang walked closer. His hands shook a little. Part of him wanted to run back home and call the authorities. But another part of him needed to see what was inside. The ship's door was damaged. Taeyang used his crowbar to pry it open wider. Metal screeched against metal. The sound echoed through the quiet forest. Finally, the door opened enough for him to squeeze through. Inside, the ship was even more amazing. Soft lights glowed along the walls. Crystals hummed with energy. Everything looked expensive and advanced. Taeyang felt like a child walking through a palace. He moved through narrow hallways. Some rooms were filled with strange equipment. Others had walls covered in writing he could not read. The air inside was warm, very warm, almost too hot to breathe. Then he entered the central chamber. In the middle of the room stood a large pod made of transparent crystal. Energy fields flickered around it like flames. And inside the pod, a woman slept. Taeyang stepped closer, his eyes wide. The woman was beautiful in a way that seemed impossible. Her skin had a copper tone that glowed softly. Dark hair with streaks of red flowed around her face. Strange patterns marked her skin, glowing like embers in a fire. She wore armor that looked both ancient and futuristic at the same time. She was not human. That much was clear. Taeyang reached out but stopped before touching the pod. Red light suddenly flashed along its surface. Warning symbols appeared on a small screen. He could not read the alien writing, but the meaning was clear. Something was wrong. The temperature inside the pod was dropping. The energy fields flickered and weakened. The woman's face looked pale, almost gray. She was dying. Taeyang made a choice in that moment. He could leave. He could run home and call for help. Help that might take days or weeks to arrive. By then, this woman would be dead, or he could try to save her. He ran back to his truck and grabbed everything he could use. Battery packs, cables, his portable generator. He was just a farmer, not an engineer. But he knew how to fix things. He knew how to solve problems. Back inside the ship, Taeyang studied the pod carefully. It was losing power. The crystals around it were dark and cracked. He needed to give it energy from somewhere else. He connected his generator to the pod's power system. Sparks flew. Nothing happened. He tried different connections, different cables. Sweat ran down his face from the heat inside the ship. Finally, one connection worked. The generator roared to life. Energy flowed into the pod. The warning lights changed from red to yellow. The pod's front panel showed symbols. Taeyang touched them randomly, hoping one would open the pod. On his fifth try, something clicked. The energy fields disappeared. The crystal front slid open with a soft hiss. The woman's eyes opened. They were gold. Bright, burning gold like the heart of a flame. She looked at Taeyang with confusion and fear. She tried to speak, but the words were in a language he had never heard, musical and strange. Then flames erupted across her skin. Tae-yang jumped back, raising his arms to protect his face. The fire covered her completely for a moment, then faded away. She looked at him again, her gold eyes full of questions. She tried to stand, but her legs would not hold her. She fell forward. Tae-yang caught her. Her body was hot. Very hot. Like holding someone with a dangerous fever. But he did not let go. She looked up at him, her face pale and weak. She said something else in her language. Then her eyes closed and she went limp in his arms. For a moment, Tae-yang panicked. Was she dead? No, she was still breathing, still burning hot against his chest. She had just passed out. He carried her out of the ship. She was lighter than he expected, but the heat from her body made his arms ache. He laid her carefully in the back of his truck on some blankets. The drive home felt long. Tae-yang kept looking back to make sure she was still breathing. Her skin flickered with small flames occasionally. Her face twisted in pain or fear, he could not tell which. At his house, Tae-yang carried her inside and laid her on his bed. She was shivering now, even though her skin still burned hot. He piled every blanket he owned on top of her. He built a fire in the fireplace even though it was summer. Nothing seemed to warm her enough. For 3 days she lay in his bed in a fever. Sometimes she cried out in her strange language. Sometimes flames danced across her hands and face. Tae-yang stayed close, changing the blankets when they got too hot, bringing water to her lips, keeping the fire burning. He did not call the authorities. He did not tell anyone. Something told him she needed time. She needed safety. And after seeing her ship, after seeing her power, he knew that others might want to use her or study her like some experiment. On the 4th morning, her eyes opened again. The gold color was softer now, less intense. She looked around the room slowly, taking in the wooden walls, the simple furniture, the sunlight coming through the window. Then she looked at him. Tae-yang sat in a chair next to the bed, exhausted from days of worry. He gave her a small smile. She tried to speak, but her voice was weak. The words were still in her language. Tae-yang shook his head and pointed to himself. Tae-yang, he said clearly, then pointed to her with a questioning look. She understood. Her lips moved carefully around the human sounds. Hana, she whispered. Her voice sounded like wind through flames. Tae-yang nodded and smiled wider. Hana, he repeated. She tried to sit up but was still too weak. Tae-yang helped her, adjusting the pillows behind her back. She watched him carefully, like a wild animal deciding if it could trust him. He brought her water and food. Simple things. Bread and soup. She ate slowly, her golden eyes never leaving his face. She looked surprised by the taste of normal food. Outside, the sun set over the farm. Inside, a farmer and a princess from another world sat in silence, beginning a friendship that would change everything. Neither of them knew that death was already following her trail through the stars. Hana recovered slowly over the next week. Each day she grew stronger. Each day the trust between her and Tae-yang grew deeper. But the language barrier made everything difficult. They communicated with hand gestures and simple drawings. Tae-yang showed her pictures of Earth, of humans, of his farm. She watched everything with intense curiosity. On the 8th day, Hana walked with Tae-yang to her crashed ship. She moved carefully, still weak but determined. When she saw the ship again, pain filled her golden eyes. She touched the damaged hull gently, like saying goodbye to an old friend. Inside the ship, Hana searched through the wreckage. She found what she was looking for in a storage compartment, a small device round and silver with a blue crystal in the center. She pressed it and the crystal glowed. She spoke into it in her language. A moment later, the device spoke back in human language. Translation active, it said with a mechanical voice. Tae-yang's eyes went wide. You can understand me now? Hana nodded, and through the device her words became English. Yes, this translator is damaged. It will not work perfectly. But we can speak now. Who are you? Tae-yang asked the question that had burned in his mind for days. Where do you come from? Hana sat down on a broken piece of equipment. Her face looked sad and tired. I am Princess Hana of the Flame Empire. Or I was. There is no empire anymore. There is nothing left. She told him her story. The translator sometimes struggled with her words, but Taeyang understood enough. The Flame Empire had ruled hundreds of star systems for 10,000 years. Her people, the Pyrosians, were born with the power to control fire and heat. They were strong and proud, maybe too proud. Then the Voidborn came. The Voidborn collective was not like other species. It was a hive mind. Millions of creatures all controlled by one consciousness. They spread across the galaxy like a disease, consuming everything in their path. They took worlds, resources, and even the bodies of other species to make more of themselves. The war lasted 3 generations. At first, the Pyrosians won easy victories. Their fire burned the Voidborn ships. Their heat melted the enemy soldiers. But the Voidborn never stopped coming. For every ship destroyed, 2 more appeared. For every soldier killed, 10 more rose. One by one, the Empire's worlds fell. Hana's voice shook as she described the final days. Her home world burned, not from enemy weapons, but from her own people desperately unleashing their powers to stop the invasion. Billions died in fires that even Pyrosians could not survive. Her father, the Emperor, made a final choice. He sent Hana away in the fastest ship they had. He gave her 2 things. First, a genetic archive containing the DNA of her species, a chance to rebuild the Pyrosians someday. Second, the knowledge of their greatest weapon, the stellar flame, a power so terrible it could ignite a star itself. He told me to run, Hana said quietly, to survive, to remember. I am the last of my people, Taeyang, the last Pyrosian in the entire universe. Taeyang sat silent for a long time. His mind struggled to understand the scale of what she described. Empires spanning hundreds of worlds, wars lasting generations, powers that could destroy stars. His entire species barely had a few colonies beyond Earth. They were children playing in a dangerous galaxy. I am sorry, he finally said, for your loss, for your people. Hana looked at him with surprise. You feel sadness for beings you never knew? For an empire you never heard of? Loss is loss, Taeyang said simply. Pain is pain. I do not need to know your empire to know that you hurt. Something changed in Hana's expression. A softness replaced the hardness in her golden eyes. You are strange, human. Your people are so young, so weak compared to the great civilizations. Yet you show kindness without expecting anything in return. The days passed. Hana stayed on the farm, adapting to life so different from her royal upbringing. Taeyang taught her how to care for the crops. She was fascinated by agriculture. Her people had stopped farming millions of years ago, she explained. They had machines that could create food from pure energy. But this is better, she said one day, kneeling in the dirt with her hands in the soil. This is real. You put seeds in the ground and they grow. It is simple and honest. Taeyang smiled. You sound like a farmer already. Hana laughed. It was the first time he heard her laugh. The sound was warm and musical. She taught him about the galaxy, too. At night, they sat under the stars and she pointed out the constellations she knew. She told him about worlds of crystal and ice, about gas giants where cities floated in the clouds, about ancient civilizations that made humanity look like infants. The universe is more wonderful and more terrible than your people know, she said. You are lucky to be isolated here, unknown, safe. But they were not safe. 2 weeks after she woke up, Hana insisted on checking her ship's long-range sensors. Taeyang helped her power them up using his generator. The screens flickered to life, showing data in her language. Hana's face went pale. Her hands trembled as she read the information. What is it? Taeyang asked, fear growing in his chest. My pod, Hana whispered. Before you woke me, it sent out a distress signal. An automatic emergency broadcast. I thought it was too damaged to send anything. I was wrong. Who received it? Hana looked at him with horror in her eyes. The Voidborn. They detected the signal. They know a Pyrosian was here. They are coming. Taeyang felt cold despite the heat inside the ship. When? The data shows a scouting fleet changed course 16 days ago. They are heading here. To your world. To New Haven. She worked the controls with shaking hands. They will arrive in approximately 6 months. 6 months. Half a year until an enemy arrived that had destroyed an empire spanning hundreds of worlds. An enemy that humanity did not even know existed. We have to warn people, Taeyang said. We have to tell the government. They will not believe us, Hana said. Governments are slow. They will want proof. They will want to study me and my ship. They will waste precious time. Maybe, Taeyang agreed. But we have to try. My people deserve a chance to fight. Even if it seems hopeless, we deserve that chance. Hana looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. You are right. Running and hiding did not save my empire. Perhaps facing the truth will save yours. That night they made plans. Tae-yang had a brother, Dae-hyun, who worked in the Colonial Defense Force. They had not spoken in 3 years, not since Tae-yang left military service to become a farmer. It had been a bitter argument. Dae-hyun thought farming was wasting his potential. Tae-yang thought the military was wasting his life, but now his brother was their best hope. He is stubborn and proud, Tae-yang told Hana. But he is a good soldier. He believes humans should explore more, be braver. If anyone will listen to a warning about aliens, it is him. Then we go to him, Hana said. We show him the truth, and we pray your people are as brave as you are. Before they left the ship, Hana did something unexpected. She placed her hand on the central console and closed her eyes. Flames flickered across her skin. For a moment, the entire ship glowed with warm light. What are you doing? Tae-yang asked. Saying goodbye, Hana answered softly. This ship carried my father's last hopes, my people's final dreams. Now it will sleep here in your forest, a monument to what was lost. The light faded. The ship went dark and silent. They walked back to the farm together under the stars. Tae-yang looked up at the sky and realized something had changed. Before, the stars were distant and beautiful. Now they were dangerous. Now they hid threats humanity could not imagine. Are you afraid? Hana asked quietly. Tae-yang thought about it honestly. Yes, he admitted. I am terrified. But fear never stopped a crop from needing to be planted. Work still needs to be done, and sometimes the hardest work is the most important. Hana smiled at him. A real, genuine smile. I understand now why your species survives. You do not let fear control you. You face it and work anyway. We are stubborn, Tae-yang said. Maybe too stubborn. No, Hana said, her golden eyes reflecting the starlight. Not too stubborn. Exactly stubborn enough. Tomorrow they would travel to the capital. Tomorrow they would try to convince people that death was coming from the stars. But tonight they stood together on a simple farm. A princess and a farmer. The last of one species and one of billions of another. And somehow, in that moment, neither of them felt quite so alone anymore. The journey to the capital city took 4 hours by transport. Tae-yang and Hana sat in the back of the public vehicle, watching the countryside pass by. Hana wore simple human clothes now and a hat to hide her glowing hair. People glanced at her strangely, but no one realized what she truly was. Tae-yang's heart beat faster as the city appeared on the horizon. He had not seen his brother in 3 years. Their last conversation had been angry words and hurt feelings. Now he was returning to ask for help with an impossible story. They reached the military district by midday. Tae-yang left a message at the front desk for Dae-hyun. Tell him his brother needs to talk. It is an emergency. An hour later, Dae-hyun appeared. He was taller than Tae-yang, with broader shoulders and a military haircut. His uniform was neat and perfect. When he saw Tae-yang, his face showed surprise and then anger. What are you doing here? Dae-hyun asked coldly. Come back to beg for help with your farm? No, Tae-yang said calmly. I came to warn you. To warn everyone. Dae-hyun, please. I need you to listen with an open mind. Something in Tae-yang's voice made Dae-hyun pause. His brother looked serious. Scared even. Dae-hyun nodded slowly. Come with me. He led them to a private meeting room. Once the door closed, Tae-yang began to explain. He told his brother everything. The crashed ship. Hana. The Flame Empire. The Voidborn. The fleet coming to New Haven in 6 months. Dae-hyun listened with growing disbelief. When Tae-yang finished, his brother stood up and shook his head. This is insane. Aliens? Fallen empires? You expect me to believe this? I know how it sounds, Tae-yang said. But it is true. Hana, show him. Hana removed her hat. Her hair shimmered with streaks of red and gold. The ember patterns on her skin began to glow softly. Then she held out her hand. Flames appeared in her palm, dancing and twisting into complex shapes. A bird made of fire flew around the room before dissolving into sparks. Dae-hyun stumbled backward, his eyes wide.
What? How? I am Hana of the Flame Empire, she said clearly.
Everything your brother told you is true. The Voidborn destroyed my civilization. Now they are coming here. Your people must prepare or they will die like mine did. Daehyun sat down heavily. His training as a soldier fought against the impossibility of what he saw. Finally, the soldier won. If this is real, we need to tell the governor. The admiral, everyone. Can you arrange a meeting? Taeyang asked. Yes, Daehyun said, still staring at Hana. Yes, I can. But they will not believe this easily. Can you prove it? Show them evidence? I have data from my ship, Hana said. Records of the war, videos of the Voidborn attacks, sensor readings of their fleet. I have everything. The meeting was arranged for the next day. Governor Bora, Admiral Kwan, and several military leaders gathered in a secure conference room. Taeyang felt small among these important people, but Hana stood proud and calm, every bit the princess she claimed to be. Governor Bora was a sharp woman in her 50s with gray hair and intelligent eyes. Admiral Kwan was older, with a face marked by years of hard decisions. Both looked skeptical as Daehyun explained why they were there. This is highly irregular, the governor said. You claim to have found an alien? Here on New Haven? Not just an alien, Hana said, stepping forward. The last survivor of a dead empire, and the warning that your deaths are coming. She activated a holographic projector from her ship. Images appeared in the air above the table. First, her homeworld, a beautiful planet of red deserts and golden cities. Then the Voidborn fleet arriving. Dark ships that seemed to drink in the light around them. The battle scenes that followed were horrific. Voidborn creatures swarmed through cities, their forms constantly changing and adapting. Pyrosian soldiers fought with walls of flame and weapons of concentrated heat. At first they won. Then slowly, inevitably, they were overwhelmed. The final image showed Hana's world dying. Half the planet was covered in black, writhing masses. The other half burned with fire so hot the oceans boiled. The room was silent. This cannot be real, Admiral Kwan finally said. The technology to fake such images. Hana's eyes flashed gold. She raised her hand and flames erupted from her palm. Not small flames this time. A pillar of fire rose to the ceiling, intense and controlled. Then she shaped it into a beam and aimed it at a reinforced steel plate on the wall. The metal glowed red, then orange, then white. It melted like butter. She closed her hand. The flames disappeared. The plate dripped molten metal onto the floor. That is real enough for you? She asked quietly. The governor and admiral looked at each other. The other military leaders whispered urgently among themselves. If this is true, Governor Bora said slowly, then we are facing an extinction event. We cannot evacuate New Haven in 6 months. We do not have enough ships. Not even close. Then we fight, Admiral Kwan said firmly. We prepare. We learn everything we can from this technology, and we make the Voidborn bleed for every inch of our world. Can we win? The governor asked Hana directly. Hana was quiet for a long moment. My empire had thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, weapons that could destroy planets, and we lost. Your people have a small fleet, basic weapons, no understanding of what is coming. So we cannot win, someone said quietly. I did not say that, Hana continued. The Pyrosians were powerful but arrogant. We fought the same way for 10,000 years. We never adapted, never changed our tactics. But humans, she looked at Taeyang. Humans are different. You are young, flexible. You think in ways my people forgot how to think. Maybe that gives you a chance. Then we use that chance, Daehyun said. We study. We prepare. We fight smart instead of fighting strong. The governor made her decision. Begin full war preparations. Evacuate non-essential personnel, especially children. I want every engineer studying that alien ship. Every soldier learning about these enemies. We have 6 months to turn this colony into a fortress. The meeting ended, but the work had just begun. Hana shared everything she knew about the Voidborn. Their weaknesses, their tactics, their technology. A team of engineers led by a brilliant woman named Yuna began examining Hana's crashed ship. Yuna was young and energetic, with eyes that sparkled when she saw the alien technology. This is amazing, she breathed, touching the crystal power systems. These materials, this energy design, we could revolutionize everything. You have 6 months to revolutionize our weapons, Admiral Kwan told her. Focus on things that can kill the enemy. Taehyun worked with Hana to develop combat strategies. He brought in his best soldiers to learn about fighting the Voidborn. Hana trained them in techniques for surviving extreme heat, for recognizing Voidborn tactics, for staying calm when facing living nightmares. One young soldier named Jiwoo showed particular promise. She was fast, smart, and fearless. "Teach me everything," she told Hana. "I want to hurt them for what they did to your people." Taeyang felt useless among the soldiers and scientists. He was just a farmer. He had no special skills for war. But Hana insisted he stay close. "You see problems differently," she told him. "Soldiers think like soldiers. Scientists think like scientists. But you think like someone who nurtures life and plans for seasons. That perspective matters." It was Taeyang who suggested using New Haven's volcanic systems as natural weapons. It was Taeyang who thought of stockpiling supplies in hidden locations, treating the coming war like preparing for a harsh winter. Small ideas, but they added up. The weeks passed quickly. The entire colony transformed. Factories that made farming equipment now made weapons. Schools became training centers. Everyone had a job. Everyone prepared. Yuna's team made breakthroughs. They could not fully recreate Pyrosian technology, but they created hybrid weapons. Human railguns powered by flame crystals from Hana's ship, armor that could withstand higher temperatures. Shields based on Pyrosian energy fields. These are crude compared to real Flame Empire weapons, Yuna admitted. But they are much better than what we had before. One evening, after a long day of meetings and planning, Taeyang and Hana walked along the city walls. Below them, people worked through the night. Building, training, preparing. "I have seen this before," Hana said quietly. "My people worked like this in the final days. Building defenses, making weapons, hoping desperately that it would be enough." "Was it not enough because you could not win?" Taeyang asked. "Or because you had already given up?" Hana looked at him sharply. Then her expression softened. "Maybe both. We knew we were dying. That knowledge poisoned our hearts. Then we will not let that poison touch us," Taeyang said. "We will fight like we can win, even if the odds say we cannot." "You are either very brave or very foolish," Hana said. "Can I be both?" Taeyang smiled. Hana laughed. Then she did something unexpected. She took his hand. Her skin was warm but no longer burning hot. She had learned to control her temperature around him. "Thank you," she said softly. "For everything. For saving me. For believing me. For giving me hope again." "You gave me something too," Taeyang replied. "You showed me that the universe is bigger and stranger than I ever imagined. That there is more to fight for than just one small farm." They stood together watching the stars. Somewhere out there death was coming. But here now they had each other. They had a plan. They had people willing to fight. It might not be enough. Probably was not enough. But it was something. And sometimes, something was all you needed to start. They watched musicians play in the square, listened to children sing songs, saw people painting and creating art. Hana had tears in her eyes. "Your people face extinction," she said to Yuna. "Yet you make beauty. You create, you love. My people forgot how to do this. We were too busy being powerful to remember being alive." That evening, Taeyang took Hana back to his farm one final time. They sat on the porch as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. "I am glad I crashed here," Hana said. "Glad it was your farm. Your world. If I had to be the last of my people, I am grateful to have met yours." "What will you do?" Taeyang asked. "After, if we survive." "I do not know," Hana admitted. "I cannot rebuild my empire. That died with my world. Maybe I will stay here, learn to be a farmer, grow things instead of burning them." "I would like that," Taeyang said quietly. Hana looked at him. Really looked at him. This simple man who had saved her life, who had believed her when no one else would, who had shown her kindness without wanting anything in return. She leaned closer. Taeyang's heart beat faster. Their lips met in a gentle kiss. Her warmth surrounded him but did not burn. She had learned perfect control, just for him. "If we survive," she whispered, "I want to see your crops grow. I want to learn your seasons. I want to build something with you. Something quiet and real." "We will survive," Taeyang said with more confidence than he felt, "and then we will plant seeds together." They held each other as the stars came out. Tomorrow the fighting would begin. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight they had each other and the peaceful silence of the farm. The calm before the storm. The next morning, alarms screamed across New Haven. Long-range sensors detected massive gravitational anomalies at the edge of the solar system. Admiral Kwan's fleet moved into defensive positions around the planet. Taeyang and Hana rushed to the military command center. Screens showed data from the sensors. Governor Bora and the military leaders were already there, their faces grim. "How many ships?" the governor asked. "At least 40 large vessels," a sensor operator reported. "Possibly more behind them. They are different from anything in our database." The first images came through. Taeyang felt his blood run cold. The void-born ships were nightmares made real. Living vessels that twisted and pulsed with dark energy. They looked organic, like giant insects or deep-sea creatures, but wrong in ways that hurt to look at. "They are bigger than I remembered," Hana whispered. Her face was pale. "The collective has grown, gotten stronger. These are not scouting vessels. This is an invasion fleet. Can we fight them?" Admiral Kwan asked. Hana looked at the tactical displays, at the small human fleet preparing to defend their world, at the converted civilian ships with new weapons, at the defensive positions around the planet. "Yes," she finally said, "you can fight them. Whether you can win, that depends on how brave your people are, how cleverly they fight, how much they are willing to sacrifice." "Then we will be brave," Daehyun said firmly. "We will be clever, and we will sacrifice everything if necessary." The void-born fleet entered the solar system. They moved slowly, methodically, like predators stalking prey. The journey from the system's edge would take them 3 days. 3 days to prepare. 3 days to say final goodbyes. Taeyang found Hana on the command center's observation deck, watching the stars. He stood beside her without speaking. "I am afraid," she admitted. "I watched my world die. I do not want to watch yours die too." "Then let us make sure that does not happen," Taeyang said. He took her hand. Together. She squeezed his hand tight. Her warmth flowed into him, steady and strong. Across New Haven, people prepared for war. Soldiers checked weapons. Engineers powered up defensive systems. Civilians moved to shelters deep underground. Everyone knew their role. Everyone understood what was at stake. The Voidborn came closer, hour by hour, mile by mile, death approaching on dark wings. But New Haven did not run, did not surrender, did not despair. They stood ready. Farmers and soldiers, scientists and politicians, humans and one last Pyrosian princess, ready to fight for their world, their home, their future. The storm was here. The first wave hit at dawn. Void-born ships descended through the atmosphere like falling stars. Except stars were beautiful and brought light. These brought only darkness and death. Admiral Kwan's fleet met them in orbit. Human ships, small and fragile compared to the alien monsters, darted between the larger vessels like angry insects. Their new weapons, powered by Pyrosian crystals, burned bright. Missiles trailing flame struck void-born hulls and exploded in bursts of heat. The enemy ships writhed and screamed, not with sound but with something felt in the bones. The void-born were hurt. They could be damaged. They could die. But there were so many of them. Taeyang watched the battle on screens in the command center. Ships exploded. Human ships mostly. Each one represented hundreds of lives lost. He wanted to look away but forced himself to watch. These people died protecting his world. The least he could do was witness their sacrifice. On the ground, Hana stood at the forward defense line with Daehyun, Jiwoo, and the trained soldiers. She wore armor now, simple human combat gear that looked strange on her, but she stood proud and ready. The first void-born drop pods slammed into the earth like meteors. The pods opened and creatures poured out. They were horrible to see. Bodies that shifted and changed constantly. Limbs that were sometimes arms, sometimes weapons, sometimes something else entirely. Faces that were almost human, almost recognizable, which made them worse somehow. "Remember your training," Daehyun shouted to his soldiers. "Concentrate fire. Watch for the weak points. Do not let them touch you," the Voidborn charged forward. The human line opened fire. New weapons roared, spitting flame and heat. Voidborn soldiers burned and fell. But more came behind them. Always more. Then Hana stepped forward. She threw off her armor. The ember patterns on her skin blazed bright. Her hair lifted as if in a great wind. Flames erupted around her, growing larger and hotter until she stood at the center of a pillar of fire. She had not used her full power since escaping her dying world. She had been afraid of it. Afraid it would remind her of everything she lost. But now she embraced it. Not for glory or empire. For the people standing beside her. For the farmer who saved her life. Hana became a living weapon. Fire poured from her hands in concentrated beams that melted through void-born armor like paper. She created walls of flame that incinerated entire groups of enemies. She moved through the battlefield like a dancing flame, beautiful and terrible and absolutely unstoppable. The human soldiers watched in awe. Then they fought harder, inspired by her courage. With her, Jiwoo shouted, raising her weapon. "Follow the princess!" They charged forward together. Humans and one Pyrosian, the defensive line held, but the enemy kept coming. In orbit, the space battle grew desperate. Admiral Kwan's flagship was badly damaged. Half the human fleet was destroyed. They had hurt the Voidborn but not stopped them. "We cannot hold," the Admiral reported to the command center. "They are breaking through our lines." Preparing to send more troops to the surface. Governor Bo-Ra looked at the tactical displays with horror. Red markers showed Voidborn forces landing across the planet. Blue markers representing human positions were disappearing one by one. Across the city, Taiyang's militia unit defended a critical power station. The fighting was close and brutal. He saw friends die, saw Voidborn creatures consume human bodies and take their shapes, saw nightmares made real, but he did not run. He held his position and kept his people organized. When ammunition ran low, he coordinated supply drops. When wounded needed evacuation, he arranged transport. He was terrified every moment, but he kept working. The fourth wave of Voidborn broke through their defenses. Taiyang's unit was about to be overrun. He prepared for the end, holding his weapon steady despite his shaking hands. Then Daehyun arrived with reinforcements. His brother fought like a demon, precise and deadly. They held the line together, back to back, brothers protecting each other the way they did as children. "Still think farming was the safer choice?" Daehyun shouted over the noise of battle. "Much safer," Taeyang yelled back. "Wheat does not try to eat you." They both laughed. Crazy laughter in the middle of hell, but it kept them sane. In her mobile command center, Yuna discovered something crucial. The Voidborn fleet was coordinating through one massive ship that hung back from the battle. It was their command node, their brain. "If we destroy that ship, the others lose coordination," she explained urgently to Governor Bo-Ra. "They become confused, slower." "Admiral Kwan already tried," the governor replied. "He could not get close. It is too well defended." "Then we need something they do not expect," Yuna said. The plan came together quickly. It was desperate, probably suicidal, but it was the only option left. Hana would overload her crashed ship's power core, create a small stellar flame. Not large enough to destroy the planet, but powerful enough to incinerate the hive node and most of the Voidborn fleet. But someone had to activate it manually. Someone had to be there when it exploded. "I will do it," Hana told the governor. "It is my ship, my power, my responsibility." "No," Taeyang said, bursting into the command center. "I am going with you." "Taeyang, you cannot," Hana protested. "You will die." "Maybe," he said calmly. "But you said you wanted to plant seeds on my farm. Someone needs to make sure you survive to do that." Hana looked at him with tears in her golden eyes. She knew arguing was useless. Stubborn human. They took a transport to the crashed ship. Voidborn forces had taken over the forest. Taeyang and Hana fought their way through side by side. She burned enemies with fire. He shot the ones that got too close. They moved like they had fought together for years instead of hours. Inside the ship, Hana accessed the power core. The stellar flame protocol was still there, waiting. She began the activation sequence. The ship shuddered. Crystal systems blazed with light. Heat built rapidly. "We have 10 minutes, Hana said, working the controls. Then the explosion. "Then we have 10 minutes to get you out," Taeyang replied. "Taeyang, there is something I did not tell anyone," Hana said quietly. "The stellar flame does not require my death, but it requires all my power, every bit of flame inside me. When I do this, I will burn out. I will become powerless, normal, just another mortal being." "So?" Taeyang asked. "So I will no longer be special," Hana whispered. "No longer a princess of fire, just ordinary." Taeyang took her hands. "Good, ordinary is what I am. Ordinary is what my world is. If you want to plant seeds and watch them grow, being ordinary is exactly right." Hana smiled through her tears. "I choose this. I choose to let the Empire die completely. I choose a future with you over a past with glory." She placed her hands on the power core. The ember patterns on her skin blazed brighter than ever before. Then she released everything. 10,000 years of Pyrosian power, the legacy of an empire. All her strength and fire and heat. It poured into the ship systems in a flood of energy. The ship began to transform. Crystal systems exploded with light. The hull glowed white-hot. It was becoming a star. A small one, but a star nonetheless. Taeyang wrapped his arms around Hana as the energy built. He felt her warmth fade. The ember patterns on her skin dimmed and disappeared. Her golden eyes turned brown. Human brown. She collapsed against him. Just a woman now, tired and mortal and beautiful. "Come on," Taeyang said, lifting her. "We are leaving now." He carried her through the shaking ship. Behind them, the core grew brighter and hotter. 5 minutes remaining. 4. 3. They reached the transport. Taeyang threw Hana inside and jumped in after her. The vehicle's systems were damaged from the heat. He pounded on the controls desperately. 2 minutes, the engines caught. The transport lifted off, accelerating away from the ship as fast as it could go. 1 minute. They cleared the forest. Taeyang pushed the transport to maximum speed. The ship behind them glowed like a second sun. The stellar flame ignited. Light filled the world. Heat washed over them even from kilometers away. Taeyang shielded Hana with his body as the transport was thrown forward by the shockwave. In orbit, the explosion reached the void-born hive node. The massive ship simply ceased to exist, consumed by fire and light. The fleet around it burned like paper. Ship after ship detonated or fell silent. The remaining void-born forces on the ground suddenly stopped coordinating. They became confused, directionless. Human forces pressed the advantage, driving them back. The battle was not over, but the tide had turned. Taeyang's transport crashed in a field outside the city. He woke up hours later in a medical center. His body was covered in burns, but alive. The doctor said he was lucky. He should have died. "Where is Hana?" he asked immediately. They took him to her. She lay in a bed nearby, unconscious but breathing. Her skin was normal human color now. No glow, no fire, just flesh and blood. He sat beside her and held her hand. It was warm. Normal warm, not burning hot. He squeezed gently. Her eyes opened. Brown eyes. Beautiful brown eyes. "Did it work?" she whispered. "Yes," Taeyang said, "we won. You saved us." "I cannot feel the fire anymore," she said. "It is gone. All of it." "I know," Taeyang said softly. "Does it hurt?" Hana thought about it. Then she smiled. "No, it feels free. Like I have been carrying a weight my whole life and finally put it down." The recovery took weeks. Taeyang and Hana both needed time to heal. The colony needed time to rebuild and mourn the thousands who died defending it. The Voidborn fleet's destruction sent a message to the collective. This sector of space was dangerous, protected by beings who had access to Flame Empire technology. The collective pulled back its forces, deciding easier prey existed elsewhere. Humanity was no longer ignorant. The galaxy's dangers were now clear. But so were its wonders. Hana's ship contained knowledge humanity would spend generations learning. Medical advances, energy systems, historical records of 100 fallen civilizations. Governor Bora offered Hana a position as an ambassador and teacher. Hana politely declined. "I have been a princess my whole life," she said. "I would like to try being something else now." 6 months after the battle, Taeyang and Hana returned to his farm. The fields had grown wild during the war. Wheat mixed with weeds. The house needed repairs. Everything was a mess. It was perfect. They worked side by side, clearing fields and fixing what was broken. Hana learned to use farming tools. She planted seeds with her own hands, feeling the soil between her fingers. "This is harder than fighting," she complained one day, sweating under the sun. "But more rewarding," Taeyang replied. Daehyun visited often. The brothers' relationship was stronger than ever. He brought Jiwoo with him sometimes. The young soldier was learning to farm too, wanting a quieter life after the war. Yuna came to help with repairs, though she usually spent more time talking about science with Hana than actually working. One evening, as the sun set over the fields, Taeyang and Hana sat on their porch. The wheat was growing well. The first harvest would come in 2 months. "Do you regret it?" Taeyang asked. "Losing your power?" Hana looked at him. Then at the farm, at the sunset painting the sky in beautiful colors, at her hands still dirty from a day of honest work. "No," she said firmly. "The Flame Empire is gone. But I am still here. We are here. And we are building something new. Something that lasts not because it is powerful, but because it is real. And we have time," Taeyang added. "Yes," Hana smiled. "We have time. Above them, human ships patrolled the stars. Ships with names like Defender, Hope, and New Dawn. Ships that carried the legacy of a fallen empire and the determination of a young species refusing to die quietly. But here, on a simple farm on a colony world at the edge of known space, a farmer and a former princess planted seeds and dreamed of harvests to come. The galaxy was dangerous. The universe held horrors beyond imagination. But it also held moments like this: quiet evenings and growing things. Love earned through sacrifice. Hope built from ashes. The Flame Empire died so its princess could live. And in living, in choosing peace over glory and love over power, she helped save an entire world. Some empires are remembered for their conquests, some for their monuments and achievements. But maybe the greatest legacy was simpler, teaching a young species that strength alone was not enough. That courage meant facing impossible odds anyway. That sometimes the bravest choice was to let the past die so the future could grow. The wheat swayed in the evening breeze. Tomorrow they would work again, plant more seeds, build more life, and someday children would play in these fields, children who would never know the Flame Empire's glory, but would inherit something better. A world where different species could stand together, where a farmer's stubborn kindness mattered as much as a princess's power, where hope once planted could grow into anything. The end and the beginning.